Hello, welcome again. This is Ask Tammy Live, where we discuss the best ways to establish your business, protect your name, and keep your profits. My name is Tammy Shambade, and I am so glad that you are here today. Today's topic on Ask Tammy Live is, can businesses have similar names? I think that this is an excellent question, and I welcome people who are joining. Again, we had a little bit of a technical issue earlier, but I'm so glad that you're here on Instagram and on Facebook. We are going to be discussing again the question, can businesses have similar names? I think that this is an important question to answer because so many people explore this question. So many people are wondering, hey, how close is too close? And, how different do I have to be in order to not get into trouble? So today we're going to unpack that question and we're going to unpack it using the story of a regular guy, just like many of you out there, a regular entrepreneur. His name is Mr. Terrance Jackson. He lives in Maryland, was a high school football champion, loves his family. And when his son was about 3 years old, that was back in 2013, Mr. Jackson realized that he couldn't find any apparel, any clothing for his 3-year-old son at the time that didn't have skulls or cross bands. And he didn't like what was out there as an option for his son. And so like many of you, he decided to make a difference. He decided to do something about it. And so then Mr. Terrance Jackson decided that he would create his own business, his own clothing line. And he chose to name this clothing line Armour and Glory. He used that name based off of scripture. As a believer, he felt like this represented the armor of Christ. And it was all about, revealing the glory of God and creating a brand that he felt his family would be comfortable wearing, and people like him and people who shared similar beliefs would be interested in. And so, given this interest, given this topic, he decided, hey, let me go ahead and do this. He set up his Facebook page. He had about 1,500 followers. People were buying the t-shirts. They had camps, really pushing and marketing this brand and growing it. And, he was really passionate about it. Unfortunately, about 2 years into the venture, Mr. Terrance Jackson receives a cease and desist letter. He hears that our Under Armour, I don't know how many of you have heard of Under Armour, decides that they're going to sue him. And he is outraged. He's like, hello, my title is Armour and Glory. Under Armour is completely different. And first of all, Under Armour, they spell it with a U. I don't even spell armor with a U. Mine is completely different. And he's really upset about this. And it sounds, reasonable. He's invested it in his business. He's not trying to go after Under Armour's clientele. He's just trying to create an alternative for his family. And so he decides he's going to, try and fight this battle. But Under Armour says, hey, we're not going to let this go. Now, there are lots of articles out there that talk about how Under Armour is one of those giants that does not play with their brand name. If you try and put something out there in the apparel world with the word armor, they're probably coming after you. And Mr. Jackson was no exception. Now, on the lawsuit that they brought against him, they said basically that his brand would cause a likelihood of confusion, and that in order to stop infringing on their trademark, they wanted him to destroy every piece of merchandise that he created under this brand name. They wanted him to shut down his website. They wanted him to shut down his Facebook page, and they wanted him to pay them $100,000. Now, this is a business that in its 2 years had not made $100,000. Yet, Under Armour still went after them. Now, how many of you can relate to the story? How many of you are starting off your businesses? It's not like you've made your billions and millions of dollars yet. You're just trying to solve a problem, and you're just trying to figure out, hey, what's the best name? You're just trying to do business. You're not trying to go after the big guy. You're just trying to find your piece of the market, your piece of the pie. This is why I think Mr. Jackson's story is so relevant, because that's the story of so many people out there. Now, here's the truth. Even though there's no ill intention, and even though this feels like a David and Goliath situation where the big old bully is coming after the little guy, I think we need to look at this a little bit deeper. I think we need to understand what trademark law really requires. Once you register a trademark, it is up to you to police and protect it. And that's simply all Under Armour was trying to do. They wanted to make sure that they were protecting their name as they did in the past. Now, what I noticed when I started to do research and dig into this story is that Armour and Glory decided, hey, we are going to fight back. They had to do a GoFundMe page in order to raise money for their legal fees. And they had to do all these things. There were articles. They tried to get the media to know. So all over Maryland, people were talking about this and how terrible Under Armour was for going after this mom and pop shop. But you know what ends up happening ultimately? If to this day you decide to go and look up Armour and Glory and look up their domain name, you won't find them. The last time you'll see them posting anything on Facebook and on social media is 2015. I think a quick thing in 2016, but generally speaking, they were done. Now, this is not to say that they didn't have an argument. This is to show that sometimes it's not just about being right. It's about being able to defend your right. And I don't think that they were in a position to be able to do so. When it comes to trademark law, the court is very clear. They are looking for the likelihood of confusion. Now, there are 7 factors that they look at when they're trying to analyze whether there might be some confusion between 2 brands. Today, we're going to touch on 2 of them. All right. The first is they want to know what industry or what class of goods does this trademark refer to? If the 2 competing brands are in the same group, that increases the likelihood of confusion. So in this particular instance, we're looking at apparel. We're looking at clothing by Armour and Glory and clothing also by Under Armour. Now, at this point, because Under Armour is a bigger brand, they have registered trademarks in so many different classes. Whereas Armour and Glory, I don't think they had 1 trademark registered. But they were trying to create brands in the field that was similar to what Armour or Under Armour had. And so that's one of the factors that the courts are going to be looking at. The other thing that they're going to be looking at is how similar the marks are. Now, this is with regards to logo. This is with regards to name. They want to see, could these 2 be mixed up? Now, in this instance, we have Under Armour versus Armour and Glory. Some would argue that, hey, they're really not that similar. They're clearly different. But then guess what? Lawyers will still argue that they are similar. And it really comes down to, can you win that fight? So again, it's a kind of sad story in the end. I don't see any evidence that Armour and Glory was able to withstand that fight. Again, the last thing I saw by them was posted in 2016. That was 2 years ago. And at the time, they were trying to get funds to help them fight against this company. And so all of this is to say you really want to gear up and protect yourself. And it's also to say, guess what? A USPTO search is not going to be enough. You want to understand the factors behind what the law is looking at. You want an analysis, an in-depth analysis that helps you understand exactly what your brand is doing and where there could be potential risk. Today, we talked about 2 of the factors, but they're not the only ones. When you sit down with an attorney like myself, you're able to get a full search that searches more than the USPTO, more than social media sites, more than domain names. Because just like we saw in this instance, they had registered their domain name. They had their Facebook page. It wasn't enough to protect them when the big guys decided to come in and fight with them. It wasn't enough. And it's not necessarily about your heart or your intent behind it either. Again, this was a Christian company really trying to promote their Christian beliefs. They said they were all about, showing the armor of God. And I know I have a lot of Christian believers. I'm a Christian person myself. And so I know I have a lot of Christian viewers who watch this. And again, it's not enough to have good intent. Believer or not, there are laws in the land, and you want to make sure that you're well informed. You want to make sure that you're protected. And so that's what I really wanted to stress in today's video. I really wanted you to understand that, hey, you want to make sure that you're excellent. You want to make the choice to protect your name. You want to make the choice to invest in that name so that when the storms come, when the questions come, when the cease and desist letters come, you are in a position to protect yourself. I hope that this has been helpful. Now, I have more resources available on my YouTube page that talks about naming a business. I also have more videos that I've done here on Facebook Live and also here on Instagram Live. But, that's really not going to be enough. And I've stressed this in the past videos. What you really need if you are in this position where you're trying to decide what the best name is for your business, what you need to do is you need to sit down with an attorney. You need to go ahead and schedule a consultation and speak with someone who can help you decide, are you investing in the right name at this point? You don't want to be like this man who invested his time, his money, his energy into something that ultimately wasn't strong enough to stand. All right? So that's all I have for you today. Again, I am sorry for being a little late. It's a little crazy today. As you know, I'm an attorney, so we got caught in court. And trust me, coming from court again today, I was reminded of how much energy it takes to fight these battles. And I don't want you to end up there. My name again is Tammy Shiambade. If you're trying to figure out how you can schedule a time with me, you can visit my website, www.toslegal.com. Go to the contact page and you can schedule a time for a consultation with me. Additionally, you can follow me on social media. You can follow me on Facebook at TOS Legal, TOS Legal. You can also follow me on Instagram at TOS Legal. And, feel free to drop a line, share where you've been watching. If you have any questions, you can actually submit questions for future Ask Tammy Lives on the website as well. There's a tab there. You go to the podcast and you'll be able to submit your question there. Now, before I go, I just want to tell you that I have a really great treat in store for you next week. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's going to be some information that is going to be so valuable and so helpful. So you want to make sure that you are here next week. Hopefully there won't be any court issues, but I do have court next week as well, but we should be good. But you really want to be there. I'll make sure I'll let you know what time we plan on having this. You'll see something either on Instagram or on Facebook or on my website that tells you what time we'll be meeting, but you don't want to miss it. Finally, again, one more time so you don't forget. My name is Tammy Shiambade, and this is Ask Tammy Live, where we discuss the best ways to do what? Establish your business, protect your name, and keep your profits. That's all for today. Have an amazing rest of the day.